The morning sun rose over New Geneva like it did every day. The colony on Tethys 7 was beautiful. Green hills rolled across the landscape. Children played in parks while their parents went to work. Farmers tended their crops in the fertile valleys. Scientists worked in their labs. Teachers taught in schools. It was a normal day for the 10.3 million humans who called this moon their home. Sarah Chen was walking her daughter to school when she first noticed the shadows. She looked up and saw shapes moving across the sky. At first, she thought they were clouds. Then she realized they were ships. Hundreds of them. They blocked out the sun like a metal curtain being pulled across the heavens. "Mommy, what are those?" her daughter asked. Sarah did not answer. She grabbed her daughter's hand and started running. Across the colony, alarms began to sound. People stopped what they were doing and looked up. The ships were enormous. They were dark green with sharp edges, like blades cutting through the sky. On their hulls was a symbol that every human in the galaxy knew and feared. It was the mark of the Velkari Dominion. The Velkari were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They looked like tall lizards that walked on two legs. Their scales were green and brown. Their eyes were yellow with black slits. They had ruled their corner of space for 10,000 years. They sat on the concord of civilized species, the great alliance that governed the galaxy. They believed they were superior to all other races. They especially hated humans. Humans were new to space. They had only been traveling between stars for 300 years. The Concord had never accepted them as full members. They called humans too aggressive, too unpredictable, too dangerous. But really, they were just afraid. Humans spread fast. They adapted to any world. They did not give up. And the older species did not like that. The Velkari hated humans most of all. When humans built New Geneva on Tethys 7, the Velkari were furious. They said the moon was in their territory. They said humans had no right to be there. The Concord did nothing. So the Velkari decided to do something themselves. Governor Marcus Webb was in his office when his assistant ran in. "Sir, we have a problem. A big problem." Webb looked at the screens on his wall. His face went pale. 200 Velkari warships surrounded his colony. Their weapons were pointed at the cities below. "Get me a channel to Earth," he said. "Now." "Sir, all our communications are down. They have jammed everything." "Then send a ship." "Send anything. They have surrounded us. Nothing can get out." Webb sat down heavily in his chair. He was a good man. He had spent 20 years building this colony. He had watched it grow from a small outpost to a thriving world. Now he was watching it die. The screens flickered. A face appeared. It was a Velkari. His scales were dark green, almost black. His eyes were cold. He wore the uniform of a high commander. "Humans of New Geneva," the Velkari said. His voice was calm, almost bored. "I am Commander Velthos of the Velkari Dominion. You have built your nest in our territory. You have ignored our warnings. You have shown disrespect to a superior species. Today, you will learn your place." Webb grabbed his communicator. "Commander, please. We can talk about this. We can negotiate. There are children here. Families. We are not soldiers." Velthos smiled. It was not a kind smile. "We know. That is why we chose this colony. Soldiers die with honor. Civilians die with fear. The galaxy needs to see humans afraid." The screens changed. They showed views from all over the colony. The parks, the schools, the hospitals, the farms. Every screen in New Geneva showed the same thing, and then Webb realized something that made his blood run cold. This was not just being broadcast to New Geneva. This was being broadcast everywhere. Every planet, every station, every ship in the galaxy was watching. The Velkari wanted an audience. The first shots came without warning. Velkari soldiers landed in the streets. They were tall and fast. They carried weapons that glowed with green energy. They did not ask questions. They did not take prisoners. They simply started killing. Sarah Chen was hiding in a basement with her daughter and 30 other people when the soldiers found them. The door exploded inward. A Velkari stepped through the smoke. He looked at the humans huddled in the corner. He saw the children crying. He saw the parents trying to protect them. And then he raised his weapon. On Earth, in the great chamber of the United Human Assembly, every representative watched in silence. The broadcast showed everything. The soldiers going door to door, the bodies in the streets, the screams, the Velkari commanders narrating the massacre like it was a sporting event. "Watch closely." Velthos said on screen. This is what happens to species that do not know their place. This is what happens when you expand into territory that is not yours. Remember this day. Remember what we can do. Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood at the back of the chamber. She was 62 years old. Her hair was gray and cut short. Her face was lined with years of service. She had commanded the human fleet for 15 years. She had fought pirates and rebels and alien raiders. But she had never seen anything like this. On screen, a school was burning. Children ran out, their clothes on fire. Velkari soldiers waited outside. They shot each child as they emerged. The camera zoomed in on their faces. The Velkari wanted everyone to see. Representative James Okonkwo of the African Union stood up. His hands were shaking. We have to do something. We have to send ships. We have to stop this. Our nearest fleet is 3 days away, someone replied. By the time we get there, they all knew. By the time help arrived, everyone on New Geneva would be dead. The massacre continued for 6 hours. The Velkari were not in a hurry. They went through each city, each town, each village. They lined people up and shot them. They burned buildings with people inside. They hunted those who tried to hide. Velthos appeared on screen regularly. He commented on the death toll. He made jokes. He laughed when humans begged for their lives. At one point, he held up a human child by the arm. Look at this, he said. So small. So weak. This is the species that thinks it can challenge us. This is the species that thinks it deserves a place among the stars. He dropped the child and shot her. Around the galaxy, different species watched the broadcast. Some watched in horror. Some watched in fascination. And some watched with approval. In the council chamber of the Concorde, representatives from 47 species observed the massacre. Some demanded action. They were outvoted. Others suggested that humanity had brought this on itself. The Velkari were an old and respected member of the Concorde. Humans were outsiders. The Concorde decided to do nothing. The Drethkai, a species of insectoid traders, sent a message of congratulations to the Velkari. The Morvani, a race of telepaths, broadcast their enjoyment of human suffering across their networks. The Talvex simply watched in silence, calculating how humanity's weakness might benefit them. No one helped. No one spoke against it. The galaxy watched 10 million humans die, and the galaxy did nothing. Governor Webb was the last to die. The Velkari kept him alive deliberately. They wanted him to see everything. They wanted him to know that he had failed to protect his people. When they finally brought him before Commander Velthos, Webb was a broken man. His clothes were torn and bloody. His eyes were empty. He had watched his world burn. He had heard the screams of millions. Do you have any last words? Velthos asked. His voice was almost kind, like a parent speaking to a child. Webb looked up. Something flickered in his empty eyes. You have made a mistake, he said quietly. Velthos laughed. What mistake? Your species is weak. Your military is small. Your allies are none. What can you possibly do? Webb smiled. It was a terrible smile. The smile of a man who knows something others do not. You killed our children, he said. You made us watch. You made everyone watch. And you laughed while you did it. Yes, Velthos said. That was the point. The point, Webb said, was to show the galaxy that we are weak. To show them we can be killed without consequences. To teach us our place. Exactly. But you made a mistake. You did not just kill us. You humiliated us. Every human in the galaxy watched their brothers and sisters die while aliens laughed. Every human child saw what you did to children just like them. Every human parent imagined their own family in those streets. Webb straightened up. Despite his injuries, despite his exhaustion, he stood tall. You could have killed us quietly. You could have destroyed the colony and claimed it was an accident. But you wanted a show. You wanted to break us. Instead, you have united us. Every human in the galaxy is watching right now, and they are not broken. They are angry. They are so angry that they will never, ever forget. And they will never, ever, forgive. Velthos's smile faded slightly. You think your anger matters? You think you can challenge the Velkari dominion? We have ruled for 10,000 years. We have conquered 100 species. Humanity is nothing. Perhaps, Webb said. But you have never faced a species with nothing left to lose. You have never faced a species that you have humiliated before the entire galaxy. You have awakened something in humanity today. And when it comes for you, and it will come, remember this moment. Remember my face. Remember that I warned you. The screen went black. In the United Human Assembly, no one moved. No one spoke. The representatives sat in their seats like statues. Some had tears streaming down their faces. Others were pale with shock. A few were shaking with rage so intense they could not control their bodies. Admiral Tanaka walked slowly to the center of the chamber. Her boots echoed in the silence. Every eye turned to her. She stood there for a long moment, looking at the dark screens where 10 million people had died. When she spoke, her voice was quiet. But in that silent chamber, everyone heard every word. I have served the human fleet for 40 years. I have seen battle. I have seen death. I have seen cruelty. But I have never seen anything like what we witnessed today. They did not just kill our people. They made it entertainment. They made it a lesson. They wanted to teach us that we are small, that we are weak, that we do not matter. She paused. Her hands were steady. Her eyes were dry. But there was something in her voice that made the representatives lean forward. They made a mistake. Governor Webb was right. They could have killed quietly. Instead, they chose spectacle. They chose humiliation. They wanted the galaxy to laugh at us. And some did laugh. Some cheered. The Concorde did nothing. Our calls for help went unanswered. Her voice hardened. So be it. If the galaxy will not help us, we will help ourselves. If the galaxy will not give us justice, we will take it. The Velkari wanted to teach us our place. Instead, they have taught us something else. They have taught us that we are alone. They have taught us that no one will protect us. They have taught us that if we want to survive, we must become something that the galaxy fears. She turned to face the full assembly. I am requesting authorization to mobilize every resource at humanity's disposal. Every ship, every factory, every scientist, every soldier. I am requesting that we suspend all normal operations and focus on one goal. Not defense, not protection, retaliation, complete, total, absolute. Representative Okonkwo stood. Admiral, what exactly are you proposing? Tanaka looked at him. Her eyes were cold and hard, like steel that had been forged in fire. I am proposing that we destroy the Velkari Dominion. Not defeat, not humble. Destroy. Every ship, every colony, every city, every man, woman, and child. I am proposing that we erase them from the galaxy so completely that 1,000 years from now, species will tell stories about what happens when you kill human children, and laugh. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted. Some supported her. Others called her insane. Some demanded diplomacy. Others demanded immediate war. Tanaka waited. When the noise died down, she spoke again. I know what I am asking. I know it sounds extreme, but think about what we just watched. They killed 10 million people and broadcast it as entertainment. They want us to be afraid. They want us to bow. They are waiting for us to send diplomats, to beg, to accept our place. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. I say we give them something they do not expect. I say we give them silence. 1 year of silence. Let them celebrate. Let them think we are broken. And then, when they have forgotten about us, when they have moved on to their next conquest, we come for them. Not with diplomats. Not with negotiators. With everything we have. And we do not stop until there is nothing left. What about the Concorde? Someone asked. They have the largest fleet in the galaxy. If we attack the Velkari, they might intervene. Tanaka smiled. It was the same smile Governor Webb had worn in his final moments. The Concorde watched our children die and did nothing. They are cowards. When they see what we become, they will be too afraid to stop us. And if they try, she did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. The vote was held at midnight. The representatives spoke one by one. Some argued against extinction. They spoke of morality, of mercy, of being better than their enemies. But then they remembered the schools burning. They remembered the children running. They remembered the Velkari laughing. They remembered that the galaxy had watched and done nothing. The final vote was unanimous. No mercy. No survivors. Across Earth, the decision was broadcast to every city, every town, every home. Humans gathered in squares and parks, in bars and living rooms, and watched their leaders announce what was to come. Today, we witnessed a crime against humanity, the Speaker of the Assembly said. 10 million of our brothers and sisters were murdered. The galaxy watched and did nothing. Some even cheered. We called for help and none came. He paused, and his voice grew hard. So be it. If the galaxy will not protect us, we will protect ourselves. If the galaxy will not punish those who murder our children, we will punish them ourselves. From this day forward, every resource at humanity's disposal will be directed toward one goal: the complete destruction of the Velkari Dominion. This is not revenge. This is a message to every species in the galaxy. You may think humans are weak. You may think you can kill us without consequence. Today we show you that you are wrong. Humanity remembers, and humanity repays. The broadcast ended, and across the human worlds, something changed. The grief was still there. The horror was still fresh. But now there was something else. Something cold and hard and patient. In the shipyards of Mars, engineers began drawing new designs. In the factories of Europa, production lines shifted to military output. In the academies of Luna, teachers started training soldiers. In the laboratories of Earth, scientists began building weapons that would make the galaxy tremble. No one spoke of peace. No one spoke of forgiveness. There was only one word on everyone's lips, one word that united billions of humans across dozens of worlds: retaliation. The Velkari had wanted to teach humanity its place. They had succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. But the lesson humanity learned was not the one they intended. The lesson was simple. In a galaxy that would watch children burn and do nothing, survival meant becoming the thing that others feared. If mercy was weakness and cruelty was strength, then humanity would be the cruelest species the galaxy had ever seen. Commander Velthos returned to his homeworld as a hero. Parades were held in his honor. He was given medals and titles. He gave speeches about Velkari superiority and human weakness. He told his people that they had nothing to fear. The humans were broken. He was wrong. In the darkness of space, humanity was changing. The gentle species that had wanted nothing but peace, that had hoped for friendship with the stars, was dying. In its place, something else was being born. Something cold, something patient, something that would not stop until every Velkari was dead. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of her command ship, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Velkari were celebrating. Somewhere out there, species were laughing about weak humans. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was moving on, forgetting about 10 million deaths. But humanity would not forget. Humanity would never forget. 1 year, Tanaka said quietly to herself. 1 year to prepare. And then we come for them. All of them. She turned away from the stars. There was work to do. The clock had started. For 1 year, humanity went silent. No angry speeches. No threats. No diplomatic protests. The human ambassadors withdrew from every galactic station. The trade ships stopped flying. The colony worlds went dark. It was as if humanity had simply disappeared. The Velkari celebrated their victory. Commander Velthos became the most famous military leader in their history. Statues were built in his honor. Songs were written about his conquest. Young Velkari dreamed of becoming like him, a warrior who had humiliated an entire species before the galaxy. The conquered of civilized species moved on to other matters. The humans had been a minor nuisance anyway. Now they knew their place. Some representatives joked that perhaps the Velkari had done the galaxy a favor. The human problem was solved. Other species watched with interest. The Drethkai sent trade offers to Velkari space, hoping to profit from their new power. The Morvani broadcast documentaries about the massacre, treating it as entertainment. The Talvex simply waited, calculating how the new balance of power might benefit them. No one thought about the humans anymore. They were yesterday's news. A broken species licking their wounds on the edge of the galaxy. Nothing to worry about. They were all wrong. Behind the silence, Earth was transforming into something the galaxy had never seen. Every city, every nation, every colony worked toward one goal. Not survival. Not recovery. Revenge. Admiral Tanaka stood in the underground command center beneath the mountains of Switzerland. Around her, hundreds of officers worked at their stations. Maps and charts covered every wall. But these were not defensive plans. These were blueprints for genocide. Report, she said. General Chenwei stepped forward. He was the head of fleet construction, a man who had spent 30 years building cargo ships and passenger vessels. Now he built only weapons of war. The shipyards are ahead of schedule, he said. We have completed 800 warships. By the end of the year, we will have 4,000. Quality? Better than anything in the galaxy. We have studied every species' technology for 300 years. We were never allowed to buy their weapons, so we learned to build our own. Our shields are stronger than Velkari shields. Our weapons hit harder. Our engines are faster. Tanaka nodded. What about the special weapons? Chenwei hesitated. Admiral, are you sure about those? They violate 17 Concord conventions. If the galaxy finds out, the galaxy watched our children burn and did nothing. Tanaka interrupted. I do not care about their conventions. I care about results. Can you build them? Yes. We can build them. Then build them. Across human space, the war machine grew. Factories that once made farm equipment now made bombs. Laboratories that researched medicine now developed poisons. Schools that taught history and art now taught combat and tactics. Dr. Maria Santos had spent 20 years developing treatments for childhood diseases. She had saved thousands of lives. Now she stood in a secret facility on the dark side of the moon, looking at a weapon that could kill millions. It is ready? Tanaka asked. Maria nodded slowly. Her face was pale. Her hands trembled slightly. Yes. We call it the Shadow. It is a biological weapon. Once released, it spreads through any population within days. The death rate is 100%. There is no cure. Is it specific to Velkari biology? It targets their respiratory system. It will not affect humans or most other species. Only Velkari. Tanaka looked at the small container. It was barely larger than her hand. Inside was enough death to end a civilization. Make more, she said. Maria closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were wet with tears. Admiral, I became a doctor to save lives, not to end them. I know what they did to New Geneva. I saw the broadcasts. I lost my sister in that massacre. But this weapon, it will kill billions. Children. Innocent people who had nothing to do with the massacre. Did the Velkari spare our children? Did they care about innocence? No. But if we do this, are we any better than them? Tanaka turned to face Maria directly. Her eyes were not cruel. They were tired and sad and filled with a weight that few could understand. No, she said quietly. We will not be better. We will be worse. Much worse. And that is exactly what the galaxy needs to see. They watched our massacre and did nothing because they thought we were weak. They need to learn that attacking humanity is not just dangerous, it is suicide. If we show mercy, if we spare the innocent, other species will think they can kill some of us and negotiate later. We cannot allow that. The only way humanity survives is if every species in the galaxy knows, with absolute certainty, that attacking us means death. Not for soldiers, not for leaders, for everyone. Maria stared at her for a long moment. Then she wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. How many containers do you need? Thousands. Maria nodded and went back to work. In the intelligence headquarters beneath the Pacific Ocean, Colonel James Mwangi ran the largest spy network in human history. 10,000 operatives had infiltrated every corner of Velkari space. They posed as traders, servants, refugees, laborers. They mapped every city. They cataloged every defense system. They recorded every military base. Show me what we have, Tanaka said during her monthly briefing. Mwangi pulled up a holographic map of Velkari space. It showed 37 inhabited worlds, hundreds of stations, and billions of citizens. Red dots marked military installations. Blue dots marked civilian centers. Green dots marked critical infrastructure. The Velkari Dominion has a population of 28 billion, Mwangi said. Their military is large but spread thin across their territory. Their primary fleet, about 400 warships, is stationed at Kethvar. That is their fortress world. They believe it is unbreakable. Believe? Our operatives have found weaknesses. The station's shields have a gap during their maintenance cycle 12 hours every month. Their early warning system has a blind spot in the asteroid field at the edge of the system, and their communication network relies on 3 central hubs. If we destroy those hubs, their fleet cannot coordinate. Tanaka studied the map. What about their homeworld, Velcora Prime, the most heavily defended planet in their space? Orbital defense platforms, planetary shields, millions of soldiers. A direct assault would cost us half our fleet. That is not what I asked. I asked about the planet, the people, the cities. Mwangi hesitated. 22 billion people live there. Most are civilians, families, workers, people who had nothing to do with New Geneva. But they celebrated it. They cheered. They treated the massacre of our children as entertainment. Some did, not all. Tanaka turned away from the map. She walked to the window that looked out into the dark depths of the ocean. For a long moment, she said nothing. I used to have a granddaughter, she finally said. Her voice was soft. Her name was Yuki, like me. She was 7 years old. She loved butterflies and ice cream and stories about space explorers. She lived on New Geneva with her parents. Mwangi said nothing. There was nothing to say. I watched her die, Tanaka continued. The broadcast showed her school. I saw her run out with the other children. I saw the Valkyrie shoot her. I saw her fall. And I heard Commander Velthos laugh. She turned back to face Mwangi. Her eyes were dry but burning with something that went beyond grief. I do not care about innocence anymore. I do not care about mercy. I do not care about what the galaxy thinks or what history says about us. The only thing I care about is making sure that no human child ever dies like that again. And the only way to ensure that is to make the price of attacking us so terrible, so complete, that no species would dare. Mwangi nodded slowly. What do you need from me? Everything. I need to know where every Valkyrie sleeps. I need to know where they work, where they eat, where they hide. When we come for them, I want no survivors. Not because I hate them, though I do, but because the galaxy needs to see what happens when you cross humanity. They need to see extinction. The year passed slowly. To the galaxy, it seemed like nothing was happening. Human space was quiet. Human ships did not fly. Human voices did not speak on galactic channels. But behind the silence, millions worked without rest. Young men and women trained for war. They learned to fight in space and on land. They learned to pilot ships and fire weapons. They learned to kill without hesitation and die without fear. They were called the Revenant soldiers who had already accepted death and wanted only to take as many enemies with them as possible. Scientists developed weapons that the galaxy had never imagined. Ships that could appear from nowhere and disappear again. Bombs that could crack planets. Poisons that could kill billions. Machines that could hack any system and take control of any network. Engineers built the Black Armada. 4,000 warships, each one painted in the color of mourning. Their names were all taken from the massacre ships called New Geneva. Burning children. Never forget. No mercy. Every pilot, every gunner, every engineer carried the memory of what had been done. And through it all, Admiral Tanaka watched and planned. She did not sleep more than 3 hours a night. She did not take vacations or rest days. She reviewed every report, approved every design, questioned every officer. She was building the most devastating military force in galactic history, and she would not allow a single mistake. Near the end of the year, a Concord ambassador requested permission to visit Earth. His name was Veldorian, and he was a Talvex, a tall, thin species known for their diplomatic skill. The Concord wanted to discuss reintegration. They wanted to know if humanity was ready to rejoin the galactic community. Tanaka almost refused. But then she realized that a visit could be useful. The Talvex were good at reading people. If Veldorian saw what she wanted him to see, he would report back to the Concord that humanity was broken. It would make the coming war easier. She greeted him in the ruins of New York City. The city had not been destroyed, it was one of the oldest and greatest on Earth. But Tanaka had ordered it emptied for the ambassador's visit. The streets were deserted. The windows were dark. The only sound was the wind blowing through empty canyons of steel and glass. "Ambassador," Tanaka said. Her voice was flat and tired. "Welcome to Earth." Veldorian looked around with his large, dark eyes. The Talvex had no facial expressions that humans could read, but his body language showed discomfort. "Admiral Tanaka, thank you for receiving me. I must say, I expected more activity. Our people are grieving. They do not wish to see strangers. Of course, the New Geneva incident was unfortunate." Tanaka's eye twitched slightly at the word incident, but she kept her voice calm. "Yes, 10 million dead. We are still counting the bodies." Veldorian made a gesture that might have been sympathy. The Concord wishes to extend its condolences. We also wish to discuss humanity's future in the galactic community. There are concerns that your species may be withdrawing. We are merely recovering. It takes time to heal from such a wound. They walked through the empty streets. Veldorian saw humans occasionally pale, thin figures who shuffled along with their heads down. They did not look up when the ambassador passed. They seemed defeated, broken. I have heard reports, Veldorian said carefully, that humanity is building warships, that your military production has increased dramatically. Tanaka shrugged. We must be able to defend ourselves. The massacre taught us that the Concord will not protect us. We do not wish to be victims again. The Velkari believe you may be planning retaliation. The Velkari killed 10 million of our people and laughed. They can believe whatever they wish. We are not planning anything, except survival. Veldorian studied her carefully. He was trained to read deception. He was one of the best diplomats in the Concord. And what he saw was a tired, grieving woman leading a defeated species. The humans were building ships, yes, but they were building them to hide behind. They were not planning war. They were planning to cower in their corner of the galaxy and hope no one attacked them again. That is what he reported to the Concord. That is what he believed. He was executed for incompetence 3 months later. The year ended on a cold December night. In the underground command center, Admiral Tanaka gathered her top officers for the final briefing. The room was dark except for the glow of holographic displays. Report, she said. General Chenwei stepped forward. The Black Armada is complete. 4,200 warships, fully armed and crewed. Every ship carries enough firepower to destroy a planet. Colonel Mwangi was next. Intelligence operations are complete. We have detailed maps of every Velkari world. We know their defensive positions, their patrol routes, their communication networks. We have operatives in place to sabotage their systems at your command. Dr. Maria Santos spoke quietly. The biological weapons are ready. We have enough shadow containers to sterilize every Velkari world. Once deployed, the extinction will be complete within 30 days. Tanaka listened to each report in silence. When they were finished, she stood and looked at the holographic map of the galaxy. The Velkari territory glowed red at the center. Tomorrow, we begin, she said. Operation Remembrance. The complete destruction of the Velkari Dominion. No negotiations, no mercy, no survivors. She turned to face her officers. These were men and women who had dedicated their lives to building the instruments of extinction. They had sacrificed their sleep, their families, their morality for this moment. I want to be clear about what we are doing, she continued. We are not just going to war. We are going to commit genocide. We are going to kill billions of people, most of whom had nothing to do with New Geneva. We are going to become the thing we hate. And when it is over, the galaxy will never see humanity the same way again. She paused. Her voice softened slightly. If anyone wishes to resign, you may do so now. I will not blame you. What we are about to do goes against everything we were taught, everything we believed, but I believe it is necessary. The galaxy will only respect strength, and the only way to ensure humanity's survival is to show them a strength so terrible that no one will ever challenge us again. No one moved. No one spoke. Every officer in that room had lost someone on New Geneva. Every one of them had watched the massacre. Every one of them had heard the Velkari laugh. Tanaka nodded slowly. Very well. Tomorrow at dawn, the Black Armada launches. The Velkari will wake up to find their worst nightmare at their doorstep. And then, they will learn what humanity has become. She walked to the window and looked up at the stars. Governor Webb warned them. He told them they had awakened something in humanity. He told them to remember his face. Tomorrow, they will remember, and then they will die. The room was silent. The officers filed out to their posts. The machines of war hummed with power. The ships stood ready in their docks, and somewhere in the darkness of space, 28 billion Velkari slept peacefully, dreaming of their glory and their power and their superiority. They did not know that death was coming. They did not know that in a few short hours, their species would begin its journey toward extinction. They had wanted to teach humanity its place. Tomorrow, they would learn their own. The silence was about to end. And when it did, the galaxy would learn what happened when humanity stopped talking and started killing. Admiral Tanaka stood alone in the darkness, watching the stars. She thought about her granddaughter. She thought about 10 million people who had died screaming. She thought about a galaxy that had watched and done nothing. Soon, she whispered. Soon. And then she went to bed for the last time before war. Tomorrow, the Valkyrie would burn. The attack came without warning. Commander Velthos was asleep in his mansion on Velcora Prime when the alarm started screaming. He jumped out of bed and ran to the window. The night sky was on fire. Lights were falling from the heavens, not stars, but explosions. The space station that orbited his world was dying. His communicator buzzed with panicked voices. Commander, enemy ships have appeared in the outer system. How many? We cannot count them. Hundreds, maybe thousands. They appeared out of nowhere. What species? Who is attacking us? There was a pause. When the voice came back, it was shaking with fear. Humans, sir. The humans are here. Velthos felt his blood go cold. For a year, he had told everyone that the humans were broken, that they would never recover, that his victory at New Geneva had proven Valkyrie superiority for all time. He had been wrong. The Black Armada struck 17 military installations in the first hour. Human ships appeared from subspace with weapons already firing. They did not announce themselves. They did not demand surrender. They simply attacked. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Remembrance. Around her, officers called out damage reports and tactical updates. On the main screen, Valkyrie stations exploded one after another. Status of the primary fleet? She asked. They are scrambling to launch, Admiral, but our ships are already in position. They are sitting ducks. The Valkyrie primary fleet was stationed at Kethvar, their fortress world. 400 warships, the pride of their military. But they had been caught in dry dock, their crews asleep, their systems on standby. Colonel Mwangi's operatives had disabled their early warning systems. By the time the Valkyrie knew they were under attack, it was too late. The Battle of Kethvar lasted 11 minutes. Human ships surrounded the orbital docks and opened fire. Valkyrie vessels tried to launch, but they were cut down before they could clear the station. Some tried to fight back, but their weapons could not track the human ships. Human technology was faster, more precise, more deadly than anything the Valkyrie had ever faced. When it was over, 400 Valkyrie warships were nothing but debris. The pride of their fleet, destroyed in less time than it took to eat breakfast. Tanaka watched the last ship explode and felt nothing. No satisfaction. No triumph. Just a cold emptiness that had lived inside her since she watched her granddaughter die. Open a channel, she said. All frequencies. I want every species in the galaxy to hear this. The communication officer nodded. A moment later, a light indicated that the broadcast was live. Every planet, every station, every ship in known space was listening. Tanaka stepped forward and spoke. This is Admiral Yuki Tanaka of the United Human Fleet. 1 year ago, you watched the Valkyrie murder 10 million humans on New Geneva. You watched them kill our children and laugh. You watched, and you did nothing. Some of you even cheered. She paused to let her words sink in. Today, we give our response. Not to the Valkyrie. They are already dead, they just do not know it yet. Our response is to the galaxy. To every species that watched our children burn. To every voice that laughed at human suffering. To every government that decided we were not worth protecting. Her voice hardened. Watch closely. This is what happens when you kill human children. This is what happens when you make us watch. This is what happens when you laugh. We are not going to stop until the Valkyrie are extinct. Not defeated. Not humbled. Extinct. And when we are done, every species in this galaxy will know. Humanity remembers. And humanity repays. She cut the transmission. On Velcora Prime, Commander Velthos watched the broadcast with disbelief. His fleet was gone. His military stations were burning. And the human admiral was promising extinction. Get me the Concorde, he shouted. Get me anyone. We need help. But when he reached the Concorde chamber, he found only chaos. Representatives from 47 species were arguing, shouting, pointing fingers. No one could agree on what to do. The Drethkai representative demanded immediate military intervention. The humans had violated Concorde law by attacking without declaration of war. They had used weapons that were banned. They had to be stopped. The Morvani representative disagreed. The humans had been provoked. The Valkyrie had killed 10 million of them on live broadcast. Perhaps they deserved what was coming. The Talvex said nothing. They simply watched and calculated. Hours passed while the Concord debated. During those hours, 5 more Valkyrie worlds fell to human attack. Military bases were destroyed. Communication networks were severed. Defense grids went dark. Finally, the Concord reached a decision. They would send a peacekeeping fleet to stop the human advance. 1,200 ships from various species would converge at the border of Valkyrie space and demand that humanity stand down. The peacekeeping fleet arrived 3 days later. They formed a wall of ships at the edge of Valkyrie territory and broadcast their demands. Human fleet, this is Concord Peacekeeping Force Alpha. You are ordered to cease your attack immediately and withdraw to your own space. Failure to comply will be considered an act of war against the Concord. For a long moment, there was no response. Then, a single human ship emerged from subspace. It was the Remembrance, Admiral Tanaka's flagship. She did not bring her fleet. She came alone. The Concord commander, a Drethkai named Zixistal, was confused. One ship against 1,200? Was this surrender? A negotiation? Human vessel? State your intentions, he demanded. Tanaka's face appeared on every screen. She was calm, almost serene, but her eyes held something that made Zixtal uncomfortable. Commander Zixtal, she said, I know you. I know your species cheered when our children died. I know you sent messages of congratulations to Commander Velthos. I know you called the massacre justice against human arrogance. Zixtal shifted in his seat. That is not relevant. The Concord ordered nothing when the Valkyrie killed 10 million of my people. The Concord watched and did nothing. Some of you applauded. And now you come here to protect the murderers? To stop us from seeking justice? It is not justice. It is genocide. Yes, it is. The same genocide they started when they killed our children. We are simply finishing what they began. Zixtal gathered his courage. Admiral, you are outnumbered 1,200 to 1. You cannot fight us. Stand down, or we will destroy your ship. Tanaka smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. You think I came here alone? Look behind you. Zixtal turned to his tactical display. His blood went cold. Ships were appearing from subspace. Hundreds of them, then thousands. The Black Armada had been waiting, hidden in the void, and now they emerged like ghosts from the darkness. 4,000 human warships surrounded the Concord fleet. This is not your war, Tanaka said. Her voice was quiet but sharp as a blade. The Valkyrie killed our people. We are going to destroy them. If you interfere, we will destroy you too. And then we will remember that you watched our children die and did nothing. We will remember that some of you cheered. We will remember that you tried to protect the murderers of our children. And when we are done with the Valkyrie, we will come for you. Zixtal stared at the tactical display. His fleet was surrounded. Human weapons were locked on every ship. One wrong move, and 1,200 Concord vessels would be turned to dust. You cannot threaten the Concord, he said. But his voice wavered. I am not threatening. I am explaining. You have a choice. Leave now, and humanity will consider the matter closed. We have no quarrel with your species, only with those who killed our children. But if you fire a single shot, if you stand in our way for a single moment, you will share their fate. She leaned forward, and Zixtal saw something in her eyes that made him forget how to breathe. It was not anger. It was not hatred. It was certainty, absolute, unshakable certainty that she would do exactly what she said. I watched my granddaughter die, Tanaka said quietly. I watched a Valkyrie soldier shoot her while she ran from her burning school. I heard Commander Velthos laugh. And when I close my eyes, I see her face every time. I see 10 million faces. Every human who died on New Geneva. Every child. Every parent. Every life that was taken for entertainment. She paused. I do not care about Concord law. I do not care about galactic politics. I do not care about your treaties or your conventions or your peacekeeping missions. The only thing I care about is making sure that never happens again. And the only way to do that is to show the galaxy what happens when you kill our children. She straightened up. So here is my final offer. Leave now. Go back to your homeworlds and tell them what you saw here. Tell them about the human fleet. Tell them about our weapons. Tell them about the look in my eyes. And then tell them this. If any species ever attacks human civilians again, they will share the Valkyrie's fate. Not war, not sanctions. Extinction. The Concorde fleet was silent. Zixtal looked at his officers. They were afraid. He could see it in their eyes. They had come to enforce galactic law, and instead they had found themselves surrounded by the instruments of extinction. Your orders? His second-in-command whispered. Zixtal thought about the Valkyrie. He thought about the massacre broadcast. He remembered watching it with his colleagues. He remembered laughing. Laughing at the weak humans. Laughing at their deaths. He was not laughing now. All ships, he said finally. Withdraw. Commander? I said withdraw. Full retreat. Get us out of here. The Concorde fleet turned and ran. 1,200 ships fled like prey from a predator. They had come to stop a genocide and left with their tails between their legs. On the bridge of the Remembrance, Tanaka watched them go. Should we pursue? Her tactical officer asked. No, let them run. Let them tell everyone what they saw. The galaxy needs to understand that we are not playing games. We are not negotiating. We are exterminating. She turned back to the star map. Valkyrie territory glowed red before her. Continue the operation. Destroy everything. The human fleet moved through Valkyrie space like a plague. World after world fell. Military bases were annihilated. Civilian infrastructure was targeted. Power grids went dark. Food production facilities were destroyed. Communication networks were severed. The Valkyrie had never faced anything like this. Their military was designed for conventional warfare, fleet against fleet, army against army. But the humans did not fight conventionally. They appeared from nowhere, struck without warning, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. Worse, they did not take prisoners. Every captured Valkyrie base was destroyed with everyone inside. Every ship that surrendered was vaporized. The humans were not interested in victory. They were interested in annihilation. On Velcora Prime, Commander Velthos watched his empire crumble. In 3 weeks, humanity had destroyed 60% of his species' military capability. Billions of Valkyrie were dead. More were dying every day. He tried everything. He sent diplomats. They were shot down before they could speak. He offered surrender. There was no response. He released human prisoners from Valkyrie jails. The humans took them aboard without a word and continued their attack. Nothing worked. The humans would not stop. They would not negotiate. They would not show mercy. One night, Velthos called his remaining commanders for a final meeting. We are losing, he said. The words tasted like poison. We cannot defeat them in battle. Our only hope is to negotiate. They will not talk to us, a commander replied. They kill everyone we send. Then we must find someone they will talk to. Someone who can convince them to stop. Who? The Conquered abandoned us. The other species are afraid. No one will stand up to the humans now. Velthos slammed his fist on the table. There must be something. Some weakness, some leverage. Something we can use. There is nothing, Commander. They do not want our territory. They do not want our resources. They do not want our technology. They want us dead. All of us. And they will not stop until they get what they want. The room fell silent. Outside, the sky lit up as another orbital platform exploded. The humans were in orbit now. The invasion of the homeworld would begin soon. How did this happen? Velthos whispered. They were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to be broken. They were supposed to learn their place. They learned something, a commander said quietly. But it was not what we intended. They learned that the galaxy does not protect the weak. They learned that survival means being strong enough to destroy your enemies completely. They learned that mercy is weakness, and cruelty is strength. He looked at Velthos with hollow eyes. We taught them that, Commander. We taught them with the blood of their children. And now they are teaching it back to us. The invasion of Velcora Prime began the next morning. 2 million human soldiers descended from the sky. They did not bomb the cities from orbit. They did not use their biological weapons yet. They came down in person, with rifles and armor, and eyes full of cold fury. Tanaka wanted the Valkyrie to see them. She wanted them to look into human faces as they died. She wanted them to understand that this was not technology killing them, it was people. People who had lost everything and had nothing left but rage. The ground war was brutal. The Valkyrie fought desperately, but they were outmatched. Human soldiers moved through their cities like shadows. They did not accept surrenders. They did not take prisoners. They simply killed, block by block, street by street, house by house. And everywhere they went, they broadcast the New Geneva massacre. On every screen, every device, every surface, the images played on repeat. Valkyrie citizens watched their own soldiers killing human children, watched Commander Velthos laughing, watched the galaxy do nothing. "This is why," the broadcast said. "This is why you die." Tanaka landed on Velcora Prime on the third day. She wanted to be there in person. She wanted to see the end with her own eyes. She walked through the ruined streets of the capital city, surrounded by her guards. Valkyrie bodies lay everywhere. Some were soldiers, many were not. Men, women, children all dead. The smell of burning filled the air. A young officer walked beside her. His name was Lieutenant Kenji Sato. He had been born on New Geneva and had escaped on one of the last evacuation ships before the massacre. His entire family had died. "Admiral," he said quietly, "we have captured Commander Velthos. He is asking to speak with you." Tanaka stopped walking. For a moment, she stood perfectly still. "Where is he?" "The Grand Chamber, where they used to hold their government meetings." Tanaka nodded slowly. "Take me to him." The Grand Chamber had once been magnificent. High ceilings, beautiful artwork, symbols of Valkyrie power and history. Now it was a ruin. The ceiling had collapsed. The artwork was burned. The symbols were shattered. In the center of the room, on his knees, was Commander Velthos. He looked nothing like the proud warrior who had broadcast the massacre. His scales were dull. His eyes were empty. His uniform was torn and stained with blood. The war had broken him. Tanaka stopped 10 feet away and looked at him. "You asked to speak," she said. "Speak." Velthos raised his head. When he spoke, his voice was a whisper. "Please, stop. We surrender. We will give you everything. Our territory, our resources, our technology. We will become your servants, your slaves, anything you want. Just please, stop killing us." Tanaka studied him for a long moment. Then she walked closer, until she was standing right in front of him. "Tell me something, Commander. Do you remember my granddaughter?" Velthos blinked. "What?" "Her name was Yuki. She was 7 years old. She was in the school that your soldiers burned. I watched her die on your broadcast. Do you remember her?" I do not know who." "Of course you do not. She was just one child among 10 million. One face among millions of faces. You did not care who they were. You just wanted to teach humanity a lesson." She knelt down so her eyes were level with his. "Congratulations, Commander. You taught us well. You taught us that the galaxy does not care about human lives. You taught us that mercy is weakness. You taught us that the only way to survive is to become the thing others fear." She stood up. "Now we are teaching you." Velthos began to cry. "Please. I am sorry. If I could take it back, you cannot. And even if you could, it would not matter. This is not about revenge anymore. This is about sending a message to every species in the galaxy, a message that will echo through the stars for 1,000 years. She turned to walk away, then stopped. "You wanted the galaxy to see what happens when you challenge the Valkyrie. Well, Commander, the galaxy is still watching, and now they are going to see what happens when you challenge humanity." She left him there, weeping on the floor of his broken empire. Outside, the war continued, and in the distance, human ships prepared to release the final weapon, the one that would end the Valkyrie forever. The final stage of the war was the most brutal. 6 months into the campaign, the Valkyrie Dominion was dying. 60% of their population was already dead. Their military was destroyed. Their infrastructure was ruins. Their government had collapsed. But billions of Valkyrie remained, crowded onto their homeworld in a handful of surviving colonies. They believed they might survive. They believed the humans would eventually stop. They believed that someone would save them. They were wrong. Admiral Tanaka stood in her command center aboard the Remembrance. Around her, holographic displays showed the remaining Valkyrie populations. 9 billion on Velcora Prime, 3 billion scattered across the remaining colonies, 12 billion souls waiting to die. General Chenwei stood beside her. His face was tired. He had not slept properly in months. "We have them surrounded," he said. "Velcora Prime is blockaded. Nothing gets in or out. The remaining colonies are isolated. They have no way to fight back." "What are their conditions?" "Bad. Very bad. We destroyed their food distribution networks. We cut their power grids. They are starving and freezing. Disease is spreading through their refugee camps. Even without our direct intervention, millions are dying every day. Tanaka nodded slowly. That is not enough. Chenwei hesitated. Admiral, we have killed billions. We have broken their civilization. Surely that sends the message we wanted. No. The message is not complete until they are gone. All of them. She turned to face him. General, I understand your hesitation. I share it. What we are doing is monstrous. History will call us murderers, and history will be right. But if we stop now, if we show mercy, other species will think they can kill some of us and negotiate later. They will think humanity has limits. They will test those limits. She pointed to the display showing Velcora Prime. 9 billion Velcari live there. If we spare them, they will rebuild. In 100 years, they will be strong again. In 200 years, they will remember what we did, and they will want revenge. And their children will grow up hating us. The cycle will never end. So we kill them all? Even the children? Especially the children. The children will grow up to become soldiers who hate us. They will become scientists who build weapons to use against us. They will become leaders who dream of vengeance. The only way to end this is to make sure there is no one left to seek revenge. Chenwei closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were filled with pain. I became a soldier to protect people, not to slaughter them. I know. And when this is over, you can hate me. You can curse my name. You can tell your grandchildren that Admiral Tanaka was a monster. But you will have grandchildren. Because we will have made humanity safe. Because no species will ever dare to attack us again. The price of our security is our souls. And I am willing to pay that price. She turned back to the display. Begin the final phase. And General? Yes, Admiral. Do not use the biological weapons yet. I want the ground troops to finish the job. I want the Velcari to see human faces as they die. I want them to know that this was done by people, not machines. I want them to understand that every human on this ship, every soldier on the ground, every pilot in the sky, made a choice to destroy them. Not because we had to, because they made us want to. The invasion of Velcora Prime entered its final weeks. Human soldiers moved through the cities with grim efficiency. They went block by block, building by building, room by room. Every Velcari they found was killed. Soldiers who surrendered, civilians who hid, children who cried. Lieutenant Kenji Sato led one of the ground teams. He was 23 years old. Before the war, he had wanted to be a teacher. Now he was a killer. His team entered a residential building on the outskirts of the capital. The power was out. The hallways were dark. Their flashlights cut through the shadows, revealing walls covered in Velcari script that none of them could read. Movement on the third floor. A soldier whispered. They climbed the stairs slowly, weapons ready. At the end of the hallway, they found a closed door. Kenji signaled his team to take positions, then kicked it open. Inside was a family. A male Velcari stood in front of his wife and 2 children, his arms spread wide as if that could protect them. The children were small, barely half Kenji's height. Their yellow eyes were wide with terror. Please, the father said. His voice trembled. They are children. They have done nothing. Kenji stared at them. His rifle was raised. His finger was on the trigger. Behind him, his team waited for his order. He thought about New Geneva. He thought about his little sister, who had been 9 years old when she died. He thought about the broadcasts that showed Velcari soldiers laughing as they shot children. These children were not those soldiers. They were innocent. They had not killed anyone. They had not laughed at human suffering. But their parents had watched the broadcasts. Their grandparents had celebrated the massacre. Their species had treated human deaths as entertainment, and if he let them live, they would grow up. They would remember this night. They would remember the human soldier who killed their father but spared them. And one day, they might come for revenge. The cycle would never end, unless someone ended it. Kenji's jaw tightened. His eyes grew cold. The last traces of the young man who had wanted to be a teacher disappeared. He pulled the trigger. When it was over, his team moved on to the next building. None of them spoke. None of them looked at each other. They did their job in silence, like machines. Later that night, sitting alone in his quarters, Kenji stared at his hands. They were covered in green blood. He had killed 17 people today. Soldiers, civilians, children. He had lost count of how many he had killed since the war began. He wondered if he would ever be able to forget their faces. He wondered if he would ever be able to sleep without hearing their screams. He wondered if there was anything left of the person he had been before. He did not have answers. He only had more killing to do tomorrow. Admiral Tanaka visited the surface every few days. She wanted to see the war with her own eyes. She wanted to bear witness to what she had ordered. One afternoon, she walked through a destroyed city that had once been home to 3 million Valkyrie. Now it was empty. The buildings were broken shells. The streets were covered in ash and debris. The only sounds were the wind and the distant rumble of explosions. Her guards found a survivor hiding in the basement of a collapsed building. It was an old female Valkyrie, too weak to run. They brought her before the admiral. The old Valkyrie looked up at Tanaka with clouded eyes. She did not seem afraid anymore. She was beyond fear. "Why?" she asked. Her voice was a rasp. "Why do you kill us all? We surrendered. We offered everything. Why will you not stop?" Tanaka knelt down so she could look into the old woman's eyes. "What did you do when you saw the New Geneva massacre?" The old Valkyrie was silent for a moment. "I watched, like everyone else. And what did you think?" The silence stretched longer. "I thought, the humans deserved it. For expanding into our space. For disrespecting our people. Did you cheer?" The old woman closed her eyes. "Yes. May the ancestors forgive me. Yes. I cheered." Tanaka nodded slowly. "So did most of your species. 10 million people died, and you celebrated. You made it a holiday. You built statues to the commander who killed them. You taught your children that humans are vermin who deserve extermination." She stood up. "Now you ask me why we will not stop. The answer is simple. You taught us what we are worth. You taught us that our lives have no value. You taught us that the galaxy will cheer when we die." She looked down at the old woman. "So we learned a different lesson. We learned that if our lives have no value, then neither do yours. We learned that mercy is weakness. We learned that the only way to survive in this galaxy is to make others fear us more than they fear anything else." She turned to walk away. "You wanted to teach us our place. You succeeded. Our place is at the top, and we will burn anyone who tries to pull us down." The old woman watched her go. A few minutes later, a soldier came to finish what the admiral had started. The war continued. The death toll climbed higher every day. On other worlds, other species watched with growing horror. The Concord had dissolved in all but name. Representatives no longer met because no one knew what to say. The humans were committing genocide, and there was nothing anyone could do about it. Some species tried to help the Valkyrie. The Morvani sent a diplomatic mission, hoping to negotiate a ceasefire. The human fleet destroyed their ships before they could enter Valkyrie space. The Drethkai, who had once congratulated the Valkyrie on the massacre, now sent frantic apologies to humanity. They offered trade deals, territory, even their own military secrets. The humans did not respond. They did not need to. The message was clear. Apologies were not accepted. Only the Talvex remained calm. Their diplomats quietly reached out to human officials with a simple offer: neutrality. The Talvex had never cheered for the massacre. They had never supported the Valkyrie. They wanted humanity to know that they were not enemies. Tanaka considered their offer for 3 days before responding. In the end, she accepted. The Talvex were too useful to destroy and too smart to provoke. They would make valuable partners in the new galaxy order. One neutral species was allowed to survive. The rest would learn what it meant to have been enemies of humanity. On Velcora Prime, the end was approaching. The human armies had pushed the remaining Valkyrie population into a small area around the capital city. 5 billion people crowded into space meant for millions. There was no food, no water, no power. Disease swept through the camps. The dead were piled in the streets because there was no room to bury them. Commander Velthos was still alive, held in a prison beneath the ruins of the Grand Chamber. Tanaka had kept him alive deliberately. She wanted him to see the end. She visited him one last time on the final day. Velthos looked like a skeleton. His scales had turned gray. His eyes were empty. He had not eaten in days. He no longer had the strength to stand. "It is almost over," Tanaka said. "Tomorrow, we release the shadow. Your species will be extinct within a month." Velthos raised his head slowly. "Why? You have won. You have destroyed us. Why must you kill everyone?" "Because winning is not enough. I told you before, this is a message. The galaxy needs to see what happens when you kill human children. They need to see total extinction. They need to know that there is no negotiation, no surrender, no mercy, only death. We are already destroyed. We are no threat. Not yet. But if I spare the survivors, they will rebuild. They will remember. They will come for revenge. The cycle will continue forever. She shook her head. I am tired of cycles. I am tired of endless wars and revenge and counter-revenge. The only way to break the cycle is to make the cost so terrible that no one ever starts it again. Your species will be the example. For the next 1,000 years, when other species think about attacking humanity, they will remember what happened to the Velkari, and they will be afraid. Velthos was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. You are not human anymore. You are something else. Something we created. Yes, you created us. You took a species that wanted peace and taught them to be monsters. You killed our children and laughed, and now you cry when we return the favor. But it is too late for tears. It was too late the moment you fired the first shot at New Geneva. She turned to leave. Wait, Velthos said. Please, grant me one last request. Tanaka stopped but did not turn around. Let me die fighting. Let me die with a weapon in my hand. Do not let me die sick and starving in this cell. For a moment, Tanaka was still. Then she nodded slowly. Very well. Tomorrow, before the shadow is released, you will be given a weapon. You may fight to the end. I grant you that much dignity. She walked out of the cell without looking back. That night, Tanaka stood alone on the observation deck of the Remembrance. Below her, Velcora Prime glowed faintly in the light of its dying sun. 5 billion people were down there, waiting to die. She thought about what Velthos had said. You are not human anymore. You are something else. He was right. She knew he was right. The woman she had been before New Geneva was dead. She had died alongside her granddaughter, alongside 10 million others. What remained was something cold and hard and terrible, but it was also strong. Strong enough to protect humanity. Strong enough to make the galaxy afraid. Strong enough to ensure that no human child would ever die like Yuki again. Was it worth it? She asked the empty darkness. All those billions of lives? All that blood on my hands? All those souls I have sent to whatever waits beyond death? She did not expect an answer. She did not receive one. But deep inside, in the place where her humanity used to live, she knew. The answer was no. Nothing was worth this. Nothing could justify the extinction of an entire species. And yet she would do it anyway. Because the alternative was worse. Because showing mercy now would invite future attacks. Because the galaxy only respected strength. And she had to be the strongest. Tomorrow, the Velkari would die. And Yuki Tanaka would die with them, the last remnants of the woman she had been before the war. What would remain was something else. Something the galaxy would fear for 1,000 years. Forgive me, she whispered to the stars. To her granddaughter. To the billions she was about to kill. But she knew there would be no forgiveness. Not for her. Not ever. She turned away from the window and went to prepare for the end. Tomorrow, the Velkari Dominion would cease to exist, and humanity would take its place as the most feared species in the galaxy. The sun rose over Velcora Prime for the last time on October 17, 2349. In the skies above, human ships formed a ring around the planet. In the ruins below, 5 billion Velkari waited for death. They knew it was coming. They had seen the reports. The humans had developed a weapon that could kill their entire species. Today, they would use it. Admiral Tanaka stood on the bridge of the Remembrance. Around her, officers prepared the deployment of the Shadow, the biological weapon that would end the Velkari forever. No one spoke. The silence was heavy with the weight of what they were about to do. Admiral, General Chenwei said quietly. We are ready. Tanaka nodded but did not respond immediately. She stared at the planet below, thinking about the billions of lives that would end today. Mothers and fathers, children and grandparents, artists and teachers, workers and dreamers. All of them would die because of what a few of their leaders had done. It was monstrous. She knew it was monstrous. And yet she would give the order anyway. Admiral, Chenwei said again. Your orders? Tanaka closed her eyes. For a moment, she was back on Earth, watching the massacre broadcast. She saw her granddaughter running from the burning school. She saw the Velkari soldier raise his weapon. She heard Commander Velthos laugh. She opened her eyes. Release the shadow. The command went out. Across the planet, human ships opened their cargo holds and released thousands of small containers. They fell through the atmosphere like rain, breaking apart and releasing their deadly cargo into the air. The shadow was invisible. You could not see it or smell it or feel it. But once you breathed it in, you were dead. There was no cure, no treatment, just a slow decline over days and weeks, until your body simply stopped working. The first Velkari began dying within hours. By the end of the first day, millions were sick. By the end of the first week, billions were dying. The planet became a world of the sick and dying, where the streets were filled with bodies and the air was thick with the sounds of suffering. Tanaka watched it all from orbit. She did not look away. She bore witness to every death, every moment of suffering. She had ordered this. She would not hide from it. Commander Velthos died on the fourth day. True to her word, Tanaka had given him a weapon and allowed him to fight. He led a small group of Velkari soldiers in a final charge against the human forces on the ground. They fought bravely, desperately, knowing there was no hope of victory. They just wanted to die on their feet. Velthos killed 3 human soldiers before he was finally shot down. He lay in the ruins of his capital city, his green blood pooling beneath him, and looked up at the human who had killed him. "Do you think this will bring them peace?" he gasped. "The ones you lost?" The human soldier was young, barely 20 years old. He had lost his parents on New Geneva. "No," he said quietly. "Nothing will bring them back. But at least you will not be able to kill any more of us." Velthos coughed blood. "You have become us. You have become the monsters you hated. Yes, you made us this way." Velthos closed his eyes. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. "Then may the ancestors have mercy on us all, because this galaxy will know no peace now." He died with those words on his lips. The extinction took 37 days to complete. When it was over, 28 billion Velkari were dead. Their worlds were empty. Their cities were tombs. Their civilization was dust and memories. Human ships swept through their former territory, making sure no survivors remained. They found none. The shadow had been perfectly designed. It killed every Velkari, down to the last infant in the most remote settlement. Admiral Tanaka declared the operation complete on October 17, 2349, exactly 2 years after the New Geneva massacre. She broadcast her final statement to the galaxy on every frequency. "The Velkari Dominion is no more. This is the consequence of what they did to New Geneva. This is what happens when you kill human children and make the galaxy watch. This is what happens when you laugh at human suffering." She paused, and her voice grew hard. "Let every species in this galaxy remember what happened here. We did not want this war. We did not seek revenge. We were forced to become what we are. But now that we have become it, we will not hesitate to act again. If any species attacks human civilians, if any species kills our children, if any species makes us watch our people die while they celebrate, they will share the Velkari's fate. Not war, not diplomacy, extinction." She cut the transmission. The Velkari worlds were not colonized. Their technology was not salvaged. Their history was not preserved. Humanity left them exactly as they were, empty monuments to the cost of attacking humans. Scientists suggested studying the abandoned Velkari technology. Tanaka refused. Economists suggested taking their resources. Tanaka refused. Politicians suggested at least claiming their territory. Tanaka refused. "Let them stand empty," she said. "Let every ship that passes through see what we did. Let every species remember. The Velkari planets are not prizes to be claimed. They are warnings to be heeded." And so 37 worlds became ghost planets. Silent reminders of what humanity was capable of when pushed too far. The galaxy changed after the Velkari extinction. The concord of civilized species, which had governed galactic politics for thousands of years, dissolved completely. Representatives no longer met because there was nothing left to discuss. The old order was gone. In its place was fear, and fear wore a human face. Species that had once mocked humanity now sent ambassadors with trembling hands and generous gifts. Species that had cheered the New Geneva massacre suddenly remembered urgent diplomatic missions and trade agreements. Everyone wanted to be friends with humanity now. Everyone was terrified of being next. The Drethkai came first. Their representatives arrived on Earth wearing mourning clothes and carrying records of every Drethkai who had supported the Velkari. They offered to execute those individuals publicly as a sign of goodwill. Tanaka refused. "We are not interested in your internal justice. We are interested in your behavior going forward. Treat humanity with respect, and we will have no quarrel. Repeat the mistakes of the Velkari, and you will share their fate." The Drethkai went home and began teaching their children about the dangers of angering humans. The Morvani tried a different approach. They claimed they had always opposed the massacre, that their broadcasts had been meant as criticism, not entertainment. They presented falsified records and doctored memories. Tanaka knew they were lying. But she also knew that the Morvani were more useful alive than dead, at least for now. "We will accept your explanation," she said. "But know this. We are watching. We will always be watching. And if we ever find evidence that you celebrated human deaths, there will be no second chance." The Morvani went home and began erasing every record of their involvement with the Velkari. They failed to find all of them. Human intelligence officers had copies, but Tanaka kept them in reserve. Leverage was sometimes more valuable than revenge. Only the Talvex prospered in the new order. They had maintained neutrality throughout the war. They had never celebrated the massacre. They had reached out early to establish peaceful relations. Now they became humanity's primary trading partner and diplomatic intermediary. Some species grumbled that the Talvex were collaborators, that they were helping humanity dominate the galaxy. But no one dared say it too loudly. Everyone remembered what happened to those who opposed humanity. The years passed. The galaxy settled into a new normal. Humanity expanded rapidly. Without the Concord to restrict them, humans claimed new worlds throughout the galaxy. Their population grew. Their technology advanced. Their military became the strongest force in known space. But something had changed in the human spirit. The species that had once dreamed of friendship with the stars was gone. In its place was a harder people. A people who trusted no one outside their own kind. A people who smiled politely at alien diplomats while keeping their weapons close. The children born after the war grew up learning about New Geneva. They watched the massacre broadcasts in school. They visited the memorial worlds where the names of 10 million dead were carved into endless walls of black stone. They were taught that the galaxy was dangerous, that other species would kill them if given the chance, that survival meant being strong enough to destroy any enemy completely. These children did not hate aliens. Hate was too hot an emotion. Instead, they regarded other species with cold suspicion. They were polite but never friendly. They traded but never trusted. They maintained peace but always prepared for war. This was the legacy of New Geneva. This was what the Velkari had created when they killed 10 million people and laughed. Admiral Yuki Tanaka retired from military service 10 years after the war ended. She was 82 years old and tired in ways that had nothing to do with age. She returned to New Geneva, which had been rebuilt as a memorial world. The colony was gone. No one wanted to live where so many had died. Instead, the entire moon had been transformed into a place of remembrance. At its center was the wall, a structure that stretched for miles in every direction. On its surface were carved the names of every person who had died in the massacre, 10,327,416 names. It took days to walk from one end to the other. Tanaka bought a small house near the wall. She spent her remaining years tending a garden in the shadow of the names. People came to visit her, sometimes journalists, historians, military officers wanting to learn from her experience. She received them politely but rarely had much to say. "What do you want me to tell you?" she would ask. "That I am proud of what I did? I am not. That I regret it? I do not. I did what had to be done. The galaxy needed to learn that humans cannot be killed without consequence. They learned. That is all that matters." One journalist asked her the question that everyone wanted to know. "If you could go back, would you do it differently? Would you show mercy?" Tanaka thought about it for a long time before answering. "Mercy is a luxury for those who are safe. We were not safe. The galaxy watched our children burn and did nothing. Some cheered. If we had shown mercy to the Velkari, other species would have seen weakness. They would have tested us. More humans would have died. The cycle would have continued forever." She paused and looked out at her garden. "I broke the cycle. I paid for that with my soul. 28 billion souls. To be precise, I will carry that weight until I die and beyond. But humanity is safe now. Other species fear us. They will not attack us. Not because we are strong, but because they saw what happens when they try. That fear is worth more than any treaty or alliance. She turned back to the journalist. So no, I would not do it differently. I would make the same choice 1,000 times. Because the alternative is worse. The alternative is watching more children die while the galaxy laughs. I would rather be a monster than allow that to happen again. Admiral Yuki Tanaka died peacefully in her sleep in the year 2375. She was 108 years old. Her funeral was the largest in human history. Representatives from every human world attended. Even some alien species sent delegates carefully chosen. Very respectful. Very quiet. She was buried on New Geneva, in her garden, facing the wall. Her headstone bore no titles or honors, just her name and 2 dates and a single line from her final speech. Humanity remembers, and humanity repays. Centuries passed. The galaxy changed and grew and evolved. Humanity became the dominant force in known space. Not the largest many species had greater numbers. Not the oldest dozens of species had civilizations that predated human history. But the most respected, the most feared. Human ships could travel anywhere without challenge. Human merchants could trade anywhere without harassment. Human colonists could settle anywhere without opposition. Because everyone remembered what happened to the Velkari, the story became legend. The legend became myth. But the message remained clear. In schools across the galaxy, children of every species learned about the Velkari extinction. They learned that the Velkari had been a proud and powerful species, rulers of 37 worlds, masters of ancient technology. They learned that the Velkari had killed 10 million human civilians and broadcast it as entertainment. They learned what humanity had done in response. Some taught the story as a tragedy, a warning against cruelty and arrogance. Some taught it as a lesson in power proof that strength alone determines survival. Some taught it as horror evidence of what happens when civilization breaks down. But everyone taught it. Everyone remembered. Everyone understood the message. Do not attack humanity. Do not kill their children. Do not laugh at their suffering. There will be no negotiation, no surrender, no mercy, only extinction. In the darkest corners of space, where the old species gathered to whisper about ancient times and terrible secrets, they told stories about humanity, not as friends, not as enemies, as something else entirely. A species that had looked into the abyss and decided to become it. A species that had paid for peace with genocide, and would do it again without hesitation. They called humans many things in those whispered conversations. Monsters, destroyers, the species that killed a civilization. But the most common term, the one that spread from species to species and world to world, was simple: the rememberers. Because humanity always remembered. Every slight, every attack, every drop of blood. They recorded it all and passed it down through generations, and when the time came for repayment, they repaid in full and more. The empty worlds of the Velkari still stood as monuments. 37 planets where nothing moved except the wind. Cities where no lights burned. Streets where no footsteps sounded. Silent testimony to the price of attacking humanity. Ships passing through the region sometimes picked up old broadcasts. Velkari voices speaking to each other about daily life. About art and music and politics. About hopes and dreams and fears. Ghost transmissions from a dead civilization. Reminders that the Velkari had once been alive, had once loved and laughed and wept, before humanity erased them from existence. Some travelers found it haunting. Others found it satisfying. Most just found it terrifying. And on New Geneva, the wall still stood. 10 million names carved in black stone, stretching for miles beneath an alien sky. Visitors came from across the galaxy to see it. Humans came to remember their dead. Aliens came to remind themselves why they should never challenge humanity. At the center of the wall, in a place of honor, was a small plaque. It bore no name, only a message, the words that Admiral Tanaka had spoken on the day she launched the war that changed the galaxy. No mercy, no survivors. Below it, in smaller letters, was added later,